Do you like my new microphone? It's pretty good, right? So, this is my branding video. My name is Chris. My music project is called Spring Street. I'm gonna make a Spring Street drop in 1 hour. Let's fucking go. Alright, so what I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna put in a list of genres into a random generator, and it's gonna get one for me. Then I'm gonna put in a list of acapellas, and it's gonna give one to me. So it's gonna be a fucking surprise of what I make. Let's do it.
1 hour later.
Alrighty, so 1 hour's up, song's done. Let's kind of take a look at what I got so far. I'm just gonna play the track already bounced out, because if I didn't bounce it out, CPU would probably go into panic mode and the computer would shut down. So, let's take a listen. Alright, so that's a drop. That's what I made in 1 hour. So let's figure out how I made it in 1 hour. First, what I did is I took the vocal and stretched it up to 150. It's originally at 144 BPM. I didn't do pretty much anything with this part. Chopped it up real quick, just to give it something. I wouldn't do that in a normal song, I don't think, if I had more than an hour. I did take these though, I chopped them up, made them their own samples, and I routed them to a mixer channel that has some saturation on it. It has a bandpass filter on it, has some OTT with some EQing, and then reverb and sidechain. That creates kind of, it gives more depth to your chords and stuff like that by adding a vocal presence. It's kind of the same philosophy as adding choirs onto your left and your right channels to really widen the stereo field and to give it a bigger sound. So what I did is I pitched them like this and then pitched it down. That sidechain really helps to push it along too. Second part, I raised them instead of lowered them. That little do-do-do is, that's some good ear candy you can do with vocals, similar to vocal chops. If I had more than an hour, I would definitely pitch bend everything to make it really smooth. But what I got for now is pretty good, I think. I did add in this little bit, this little ooh as well. It's not really noticeable in the song, but it's one of those things where it's not noticeable, but it helps create a smoother transition into the next part of your song. Just like that. We can look at the drums now. I can put everything in. Nothing special here, standard. This is just a snare I made in Serum. Pitch bend. And then just standard kick, dubstep kick, and a snare. Little reverse snare on every other one can kind of give it some movement. Just put in some hi-hat loops because I didn't want to waste the time to program in my own hi-hats. Plus they have these little fills, which I actually kind of like. So all together with the crash as well, I forgot to talk about the crash. Just some sidechain on it to take out the transient. Nothing special. You don't need anything special with a 1 hour drop, something like that, but it works pretty well. Next I moved on to the chords. First thing I did was I added this bright kind of saw pad. Then I added these lower saws to give it some more depth and some more presence. And then the next chord I added, I wanted to recreate the sound from Porter Robinson's Thrill remix. So I actually was able to recreate it pretty well in Serum, just using a sine wave, a square wave, and a comb filter. And I was able to get this recreation, which I honestly think is pretty accurate. And what I did here is I actually put them for 2 octaves that are playing at the same time to give some nice harmonics to the sound. Putting these arpeggios as fast as they are can really help widen your stereo field, and it can push the song along when your chords start to feel a little bit stagnated. That's why I also added these little chops in here that can create a faster, kind of more aggressive, more moving kind of feeling. We can move on to the basses now. Nothing special here. Oops. Just a basic electro bass, a buzz bass. This one has a little bit more low end than that one, just to give it some presence and a little bit more thickness. For the subs, I actually use two. I use one high sub and one low sub. High sub is going to be at a higher octave but a lower volume. This doesn't necessarily add volume to your sub as much as it adds punch and power to it. It really creates a whole another realm of, you know, that bass feeling that you get when you're listening to this kind of music. And it really has helped me create a more balanced sound. So I'd look into using two subs. Next thing I added was a mid-tempo bass I made in Serum. I can actually show you that one. This one are just some wavetables that I took from actually my girlfriend talking. So I took that. This one is not. This one's a basics wavetable. This one is from my girlfriend talking. And you can drop those right in, which is pretty cool. So I just LFO'd the wavetables and the FM a little bit and a filter and the white noise. And there's really not much else you need to do about it. The other thing I did that is the most important part, though, is downsampling. That creates that really high dissonance effect. Really brings the sound to life and gives it its character. And post-processing, all I did was compress it and EQ it. Not even a lot of compression. So, you know, it's those kinds of sounds you think it's a shit ton of design, a shit ton of processing. It's just making sure you have the right effects and the right plugins when you need them. Next thing I did, I add some white noise to give energy to the saws. I also cut off some of the highs of the saw chords. Here's just the bass that goes along with the pattern of the saw chords. And that's pretty much it for the basses. I'm actually going to move on to the leads now. All right, let's take a look. So I wanted to create an electric guitar lead. I could have recorded my guitar in, but I only had an hour, so it wasn't really worth it. I've been really using this patch a lot out of Spire. Spire is my favorite synth now, for sure. It's just something about it. It's really unique, and I really love it. And I made that just by FMing one wave, and then I took a saw wave, and then a saw hybrid with a square wave. And I just kind of, you know, shaped that with some distortion, a little bit of EQ and saturation, and you get a really full and cool sound. Next thing I did is I took this pluck that's kind of like an Orjan Nilsen kind of pluck. Messed with the pitch bend and the pitch oscillation so that whenever it hits, it would give more attack, kind of like a pluck than a straight lead. Last thing I did was just add some white noise. Give it some energy, give it some punch. Now we can look at the effects of the song. I add this in every track I make at some point. I just fucking love it. That little laser on like big 4 on the floor, like progressive trance drops. It really just adds a whole nother level of energy to your kick that you wouldn't think, especially just on the one kick that you put it on. These are all white noises that kind of transition into the next part of the drop. Nothing special there. Here's one fill that I made. A tip for fills, whenever you make them, export them immediately and put it into a sample bank that you've created. That way, whenever you want a new fill or something like that, you already have a ton of unique ones that you yourself made. It'll increase your workflow, creativity, and it'll make your tracks more unique. So this is one of the ones that I made. I think I got all the channels ready. And that's it. You know, those kinds of fills, you see those kinds of fills, the marching fills. Jason Ross has been doing that a little bit. And it kind of just adds a nice level of variance into your fills instead of using just straight dubstep or straight toms. Moving on, I did use some Complextro samples here just to give it some grit. And those are all hitting when the snare hits. Let's see. Next thing I did was I added so you can see it, little tom fill. Next thing I did was I added these chords from Serum. This is a patch I use a lot. It's kind of like a choir emulator. All I did was just automate the volume so there wouldn't be any reverb tail. Some more white noise. I added these pluck chords in to give it some movement. And the last thing I added was just this little wub thing for, because I could. So yeah, that's how you make a melodic dubstep drop in 1 hour from a Post Malone song. All right, that's going to do it for this week's vlog. I hope you all enjoyed. This was my kind of opportunity to show you how I make my music, you know, what I do with a lot of my free time and what I hope to do kind of for the rest of my life. Spring Street is something I am more proud of than anything I've done in the past couple years, and it's really something that I can personally just love and be proud of. Obviously, it wouldn't be branding if I didn't plug all of my platforms. You can find me on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/spring-street. Almost got 600 followers, so Ultra is going to be calling like tomorrow. You can find me on Instagram at Spring Street Music. And I'm not going to plug my Facebook because I'm deleting Facebook in the next couple weeks. Because fuck Mark Zuckerberg. All right, that's going to be it. Here's my plan.